All right, guys. One of the comments I saw the other day was that if you eat a carnivore diet, it's literally impossible to put on body fat. Now, I will tell you that is patently false. You certainly can gain weight. You can gain body fat on a carnivore diet. Now, what is unlikely, and it's certainly harder to do it than other diets, but it's certainly not impossible. And the other thing is, I would say it's very unlikely that you could go from someone who is lean and otherwise healthy to consuming a carnivore diet and turn them into a morbidly obese person. I just don't think that is likely to be possible at all. Now, some people will say that fat is impossible to turn into fat. Now, again, that's also incorrect. And the reason people say is that, well, it doesn't stimulate insulin in the way that, say, carbohydrates or protein might, and therefore, it's impossible to store fat in the absence of insulin. Now, there's actually studies out there that show that for a small percentage of the population, fat actually does drive insulin. There's a cadaver study that was published about a year ago that showed that. But the reality is, no one eats a pure fat diet, right? Everyone's consuming at least some protein, so you're going to have some insulin level when you consume your fat anyway. I mean, you could eat big sticks of butter for a few days, and yes, you may not stimulate insulin and therefore may not store a lot of fat in that situation, largely because if you overconsume pure fat, a lot of that's going to result in fat malabsorption. You'll have diarrhea, you'll lose a lot of that, so on and so forth. But that's not the reality. Most of us are eating meat on a carnivore diet. And these are, I guess, 2 ribeye steaks. These come from a company called DM Beef. And these 2 ribeye steaks probably have about 60% of their calories coming from fat, roughly about a 1-to-1 ratio of fat to protein in these particular cuts. They're a little bit leaner because they're grass finished. And, that is still a high fat meal, relative to a normal diet. A normal standard diet, people would consider somewhere around 30% of their calories coming from the fat. A carnivore diet can be, 50%, maybe up to 80% for most people. That very much is a very high fat meal. Now, you can still lose weight and get leaner on a high-fat diet, i.e. like a carnivore diet. But at the same time, you can overconsume fat to the point where you actually put on body fat. I've done it personally. I know it's possible. You can also get lean eating a higher fat diet than the standard, 30% diet. You can get lean eating 60, 70% of your calories, maybe even 80% of your calories coming from fat. That is possible. For some people, it's a little easier to eat a little bit leaner. That's certainly clear. So the reality is, and I think it's unhelpful when people make these statements, it's impossible to get fat on a carnivore diet, or it's impossible to turn fat into body fat. Those are also incorrect statements. So carnivore is wonderful. It is a tremendous therapeutic tool. It is helping thousands and thousands of people basically recover from autoimmune disease, metabolic diseases, and inflammatory conditions, and so on and so forth. We see that every day. But when people make these sort of ridiculous, over-exaggerated claims, it is unhelpful. So the reality is, yes, you can lose a lot of weight eating a high-fat diet, including a high-fat carnivore diet. But the other side of that coin is you can get fatter and put on body fat by consuming too much fat, or too much fat and protein combined, something along those lines. All right, guys, let me know what your experience has been. Y'all take care, and I'm gonna enjoy these steaks immensely. Y'all take care.